Namaste, welcome back. Today we are back, uh, and this is Vinayak, and we are going to discuss today a new chapter for class 10 geography, that is lifelines of our Indian economy. That is the last chapter in geography which we are going to share. And before sharing the PPT for you, which will be useful for you to take down some of the notes, and for better understanding, I am going to share a PPT where I have put lot of material which is already available in your textbook, but for your better understanding, I am sharing all those things more than explaining. I have put in the PPT. And now before starting this, I would like to advise you that please go through the textbook thoroughly, and this is a very important chapter for examination point of view. That is everything. That is for many 5 marks questions, 1 mark question, and also map pointing. You have all these chapters, all these topics in this chapter is very important. So we can say that this is the most important chapter in your textbook for board examination point of view. So please concentrate well and study it, and then prepare your running notes, underline all the key points in your textbooks, and then prepare a proper running notes, and then attempt the assignments and question answers and other things, because even from this chapter you will find much easier things for better scoring of marks. So I shall share the PPT with you now. So in this chapter, mainly you are going to learn about how our economy is developing and what are the basic things what we require for improving the national economy. So what are the major things, that is major parts? That's why it is called as lifelines. It is giving lot of improvement in the economy. So what are those we are going to learn? So first, that is we have the introduction. Then what are the means of transport? Okay, of course, means of transport you have been studying from grade 1. Now you are in grade 10, where you are going to know about means of transport, but we are going in an advanced stage. And in that means of transport, we are going to study in depth about roadways, railways, waterways, airways, and one more is there, that is which you never studied, that is about the pipelines. Then means of communication, and what is international trade, tourism as a trade. All these things we are going to learn in this chapter. So first we discuss that about transport, means of transport, and before that, what is the role of transport? It plays a very important role in the economy. For example, we are in South India, but we are eating the fruits. For example, apples, where they are grown in the states of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh, but it is available in our own domestic market, that is in the South India. How we are able to eat? That is fresh apples we are eating. So it is possible only because of the transportation, because any type of goods from every part of the world we are able to obtain in our doorsteps. How we are getting it? Because of transport only. So whatever material it is, today you are shopping many things online. So you are getting all those in your doorsteps. How they are possible? How it is possible? It is possible because of transport. So these are the two examples what I told you. But everything, our life is depending on the transport. If you want to go to school, you have to use any means of transport, whether it is private or public. We need to use transport. So without transport, we cannot imagine our life. That's why we call it as a lifeline. So now transport plays an important role in the economy. Because of transport, raw materials reach the factory and finished products reach to the consumers. So we are the consumers and we are consuming the finished products. So even right from the raw material, it has to go to the factory. So everywhere transport plays a vital role. It is very important. The pace of development of a country, here pace means the speed. The pace of development of a country depends upon the production of goods and services as well as their movement over space. So everything, it is depending on the transport. So goods and services, the speed depends on the transportation. Movement over space from one place to another, there will be movement. Therefore, efficient means of transport are prerequisites for fast development. So this is very important. So for fast development, we are depending on the means of transport. Apart from transport, the ease and mode of communications like telephone and internet makes continuous flow of information possible. Today, if you want to buy any product or know about any product, immediately what you are doing? You are browsing the internet, getting all the information in your fingertips. How it is possible? It is possible through mobile phones and internet. So both we are using and it is possible for us to know all the information. So everything we are getting the information. So now means of transport. Today, India is well linked with the rest of the world despite its vast size, diversity, and linguistic and socio-cultural plurality. Means today we are well linked with the rest of the world. Today, why we are calling a global village? Our world is a global village. Why we are calling? Because all of us have come together because of the means of transport and communication. So we are able to contact anybody from one corner to other corner, and we are sharing all the things, our diversity, our size, our languages, our culture, our heritage, our knowledge, everything we are sharing each other. So that's why today our country is well linked with the rest of the world despite its vast size, diversity, and linguistic and socio-cultural plurality. So now means of transport are like railways, airways, waterways, newspapers, radio, television, cinema, internet, etc. have been contributing to its socio-economic progress in many ways. So all these are means of transport and communication. All are they are contributing its socio-economic progress of the in many ways. That is, we are progressing our economy. So radio, television, cinema, all these newspapers are used for communicating, giving information, advertisement that comes under marketing and services. All these things are the major steps for the progress of economy. The trades from local to international levels have added to the strength of its economy. So our trades are not limited to domestic market. Domestic means our local markets or our regional markets or country markets. Not like that. We are going even into international levels, and we have added the strength of its economy. It has enriched our life and added significantly to growing services and facilities for the comforts of the life. See, our lifestyle has changed because of availability of all types of comforts. So our comfort zone is increasing day by day. We are going using the technology, we are using the what do we say, all the services what we are getting from the products, and we are able to buy all the comforts what we need in our life. So for everything, it is again usage of technology, usage of material, usage of products, etc. All these are coming. This is through means of communication and transportation only it is possible. Now, what are the means of transport? See, means of transport, we have three types: land, water, airways. So in land, what we have? Roadways, railways, and one more we are adding in your 10th class, that is the pipelines. Water, inland and overseas, that is sea routes, that is ships and boats or whatever. Then airways, we have two types in our country, that is domestic airways and international airways. In these airways, you know, international means going from one country to another. Domestic is in the internal places of our country. And again, we have in this public undertaking as well as private airlines. Public undertaking, that is used by through government. It is through government. And private airlines, we have n number of private airlines. Now, first in detail we shall go, and we shall start with roadways. India has one of the largest road networks in the world, aggregating to about 2.3 million kilometers at present. So we have largest road networks in the world, that is about 2.3 million kilometers at present. In India, roadways have preceded railways because India is a vast diversified country. We have lot of different types of physical factors and features. You studied in 9th class physical features. We have so many things like mountains, plains, deserts, plateaus, all these things, coastal areas. So for which, for everything, roadways are better connectivity. They have better connectivity than the railways. So road network is in a better form than the railways in our country. That's why roadways are still have an edge over railways in view of ease with which they can be built and maintained. And building roadways is cheaper than the railways, and they can be maintained. See, in board exams regularly there is a question: roadways have an edge over railways, justify the statement. This is always given, so you need to justify this. So the growing importance of road transport versus rail transport is rooted in the following reasons. So I have made it into points by which you can understand, and even you can know the difference between the roadways and the railways. That is, what is the distinction between both of them. Construction cost of roads is much lower than the railway lines. Roads can traverse comparatively more dissected and undulating topography. See this point here, they can traverse comparatively more dissected and undulating topography. Topography means the geographical presence, how it is. See, in deserty area, we cannot lay the railway tracks, or in the mountains we have to dig tunnels, or on the plateaus also they have to break the hills and then they have to lay the railway tracks. Whereas roadways, they can put little height, they can increase, and then roads can be diverted and they can be constructed in any of the forms. Directions can be diverted, but railways, it is very difficult. So in any kind of topography, roadways are better form of connectivity. Roads can negotiate higher gradients of slopes and such can traverse mountains such as Himalayas. Now Himalayan mountains, railways cannot be constructed. So that's why roadways are almost the highest peaks also, roadways are well connected. So as we all know, India has a very large border line with the neighbors. So all the army has to be deployed there for the defense purpose. So we have lot of roadways till the border areas in the Himalayan region. Road transport is economical in transportation of few persons and relatively smaller amount of goods over short distance. If we have to go to short distance and number of people are less, what do you prefer? You prefer either a car or a public transport or a bus, or maybe if you are going to your school, you may go by auto or a two-wheeler or all those things. So road transport is possible for this, whereas railways cannot be done. It also provides door-to-door service, thus the cost of loading and unloading is much lower. Door-to-door service means, now if you go somewhere or you are coming from somewhere by train, where do you get down? You get down in the railway station. So the railway station, from railway station you need to go to your home. How you are going? Again you are using roadways, because a train cannot come in front of your house and drop you, right? So road transport provides door-to-door service, and goods also, if you buy anything, the cost of loading unloading also will be very less. Road transport is also used as a feeder to other modes of transport, such as they provide link between railway station, air and seaports. As I gave you a small example, from railway station you need to go home, so you need to use the roadways. The same way, it gives a feeder to other modes of transport. Even if anyone flies or comes from the airport, they need to go to their destinations, so they have to use the roadways compulsorily. If anything, goods have to be sent to seaports, again road transport is used. So it is a very important, road transport is very important. So now in India, this is very important part. See, now these parts are why it is very important. There are questions for the map pointing, there are questions for the 1 mark, there are questions for 5 marks also. And if you understand, it will be very easy. See, they are classified into 6 classes according to their capacity. The first one is golden quadrilateral. Second one is national highways. Third one, state highways. Fourth one, district roads. Fifth one, other roads. Sixth one, border roads. So these are the types of roadways. We shall go in a depth and understand what are these. Now before that, I would like to share with you in the map very clearly. I am showing it. Okay. Now This is very important. One question will be for the map compulsory, and if you understand this, you will be able to write on your own a 5 marks question also very easily. You can attempt. See, colors I have given, right? So how are the major roads built in our country? First, we shall go with the golden quadrilateral. And in mathematics, you are studying quadrilateral. What is the quadrilateral? It doesn't have any shape. That is, neither it is a rectangle or a square, nor a trapezium, we can say, but we call it as quadrilateral. It has 4 sides. So that's why we call it as a quadrilateral. It is in the shape of a quadrilateral. So golden quadrilateral, see the pink color line. So first we shall start. The golden quadrilateral starts from Delhi to, I am moving my cursor. I don't know whether you are able to see my cursor or not. From Delhi to Kolkata. Kolkata to Chennai. Chennai to Mumbai. And again from Mumbai to Delhi. So while answering, you should write Delhi twice, beginning and ending. That is, again I will repeat, the golden quadrilateral starts from Delhi to Kolkata, Kolkata to Chennai, Chennai to Mumbai, Mumbai to Delhi. So this only finishes the quadrilateral. If you stop with Mumbai, you may not get the marks. You will lose the marks. So you have to write. And this road is constructed. It is a super highway. What we call it as super highway, 6-lane track super highway, which has which is well connected with the major cities on the way. Like see, Delhi to Kolkata, in between you have Agra, Patna, Varanasi, like that, many of the major cities. And from Kolkata, Bhubaneswar, Puri, not Puri, Bhubaneswar, then Vishakhapatnam, then Vijayawada, Machilipatnam, then Tirupati, Chennai. From Chennai again it goes to Bengaluru, then it goes to Panaji, that is Goa, near Goa actually. Then it reaches to Mumbai via Pune. Then again Surat, Ahmedabad, Udaipur, then Jaipur, then Delhi. So like that, almost major cities it is covering up, and this is called the golden quadrilateral. And again we shall do it in the map pointing also. Then next one is the blue color, dark blue color, that is north south corridor. North south corridor. North means you know what is north. So north south corridor is nothing but it starts from Srinagar to Kanyakumari. Where is Kanyakumari? Southernmost tip of our country in Tamil Nadu. So you should, while learning, you should learn the name of the states also, so you won't get confused. So because the name is north south corridor, so we shall start from north. So you follow my cursor, that is from Srinagar, totally in the north in Jammu and Kashmir, and it is passing through part of Punjab, then Delhi, then Madhya Pradesh, Jhansi, then many cities of Madhya Pradesh, then Nagpur, then Hyderabad, Kurnool, Bengaluru, and again it is coming towards Tamil Nadu and it reaches Kanyakumari. So north-south corridor is the super highway from Srinagar to Kanyakumari. Now we shall go with the east-west corridor, that is the light blue color. East means come to your eastern side. It starts from Silchar. Silchar is a town in Assam. So from Silchar it starts. So Silchar, it is going via Guwahati. Then again parts of Uttar Pradesh. Then it is again meeting here in Jhansi. Then it reaches in the westernmost part of the port city Porbandar in Gujarat. So east-west corridor is Silchar to Porbandar. North-south corridor Srinagar to Kanyakumari. So then the last one green is the major national highways. That is different phases we have. There are a lot of national highways, that is green color, and other than this you have a map in your textbook also where all the national highways with the numbers are given. Of course numbers will be slightly changing because of the new roads existing. Okay, golden quadrilateral we studied just now. Again I'll read out for your better understanding. The government has launched a major road development project linking Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai and again Delhi by 6-lane super highway. The north-south corridors linking Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir and Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu and east-west corridor connecting Silchar, Assam and Porbandar in Gujarat are part of this project. The major objective of these super highways is to reduce the time and distance between the mega cities of India and even to reduce the traffic in the towns and the cities, because nowadays every town and city are given bypass roads or highways are diverted from bypasses so that they can ease the traffic into the cities or the and time saving also. The highway projects are being implemented by National Highway Authority of India. So all these highways are maintained and constructed by National Highway Authority of India, NHAI. Now excuse me. So national highways, they link extreme parts of the country. These are the primary road systems and are laid and maintained by CPWD, that is Central Public Works Department, CPWD. A number of major national highways run in north, south and east, west directions. So these are taken care by CPWD, national highways. State highways. Roads linking a state capital with different district headquarters are known as state highways. That is, every state capital is linked to the various district headquarters of that state. So those highways are called as state highways. These roads are constructed and maintained by the State Public Works Department in the states and union territories. That is, we call it as PWD, Public Works Department. Now, other roads. What are these? First, we will go with the district roads. These connect These roads connect the district headquarters with the other places of the district. These roads are maintained by the Zilla Parishad. District roads are giving connectivity to the district headquarters with other small towns and villages, and these roads are maintained by Zilla Parishad. Then what are other roads? Other roads are rural roads which link rural areas and villages with towns, are classified under these category. These roads received special impetus under the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. Under this scheme, special provisions are made so that every village in the country is linked to a major town in the countryside, and it is a all season motorable road. Actually, in the early 2000, during the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, that is when he was the Prime Minister, he had started this program called Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. So he had implemented many schemes, and he had in this scheme, all the unemployed people of that particular village, they were called and they were made to lay these roads. Every village should have a road. That was the idea, and giving connectivity to the nearby major towns. So that was under this scheme, and it worked out well, and it was a successful program. This is a major thing right now. Border roads. Apart from these, border roads organization, we call it as BRO. Border Road Organization, a government of India undertaking, constructs and maintains road in the bordering areas of the country. You know, as India is a peninsula, we are covered with three-sided water, but we have a major area in the northern side. Total northeastern states, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, and again towards the west, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat. All these areas are covered by our neighboring countries and mighty Himalayas. So, and also we have a lot of trouble with the neighboring countries. So that's why the road should be well maintained so as to help our defense personnel to reach all the goods and services. So this is taken care on the borders. All the road constructions and maintenance is taken care by BRO, Border Road Organization. The organization was established in the year 1960 for the development of roads of strategic importance in the northern and northeastern border areas. These roads have improved accessibility in areas of difficult terrain and have helped the economic development of these areas. And also we got good connectivity from the most internal parts of these villages of the border areas. Now we are going to finish the roadways first. In the roadways, the road density, the length of the road per 100 square kilometers of area is known as density of roads. The length of road per 100 square kilometer of area is known as the density of roads. Distribution of road is not uniform in our country because I told you we have a different kind of topography. So density of all roads vary from only 10 kilometers in Jammu and Kashmir to 375 kilometers in Kerala, with national average of 75 kilometers, which was surveyed only in the 1996 and 97. Now it might have increased. Road transportation in India faces a number of problems. Road transportation in India faces a number of problems. Keeping in view the volume of traffic and passengers, the road network is inadequate. About half of the roads are unmetalled, and this limits the usage during the rainy season. So we are trying our level best now to have a metal road. Metal road means using concrete and cement or tar or something, and it is all weather road. That is, it should not get spoiled during rainy season and other. See, kacha road and pakka road. Kacha road always it can be used in the rainy season. So that's why the government is trying to bring out all the pakka roads. National highways are inadequate too. Moreover, the roadways are highly congested in the cities, and most of the bridges and culverts are old and narrow. You know what about the bridges? They are old bridges are very narrow. Now we need more width because traffic has increased. So that's why, and traffic congestion is more still. It has to be reduced. And culverts means a small bridges or canals or something where the road gets narrow suddenly, and then again it gets widened after crossing the culvert. So that culvert has to be increased. Now we shall go for the railways. See, it's a map you have in your textbook also. It is a railway network that is meter gauge, broad gauge. Previously, India had broad gauge, meter gauge and narrow gauge, three types of railways. That is, broad gauge is now what we are using in our the trains what we travel. It is wide enough, the tracks are wide enough, and we have the side compartment that is sitting also. Whereas in meter gauge there was no side sitting because the tracks were little narrower. And narrow gauge completely, that is in the only mountainous areas. Nowadays they have become heritage trains, generally like Ooty and in the northern areas in the Himalayan region like Darjeeling and all. You see we find the narrow gauge. Railways are the principal mode of transportation for goods and passengers in India. Railways also make it possible to conduct various activities like business. For business, people use sending goods, bulk goods, and sightseeing. When we want to go for some tour or sightseeing, we travel in trains. Pilgrimage, even railways is giving a lot of packages, various routes and programs for pilgrimage along with transportation of goods over long distance. Apart from an important means of transport, the Indian Railways have been a great integrating force for more than 150 years. So 1853 it was started. Now we have crossed that more than 150 years. It is going on increasing, and we have integrating force now. Railways in India bind the economic life of the country as well as accelerate the development of the industry and agriculture. Today all the agricultural goods like food grains and all, they are all transported in the railways only, from one corner of the country to another. So we have some data which is available in your textbook. You can see that about the total tracks, broad gauge, meter gauge and narrow gauge. So route only, narrow gauge we have very less, and meter gauge also very less. Now, development of railways. The Indian Railways is now reorganized into 16 zones. The distribution pattern of railway network in the country has been largely influenced by physiographic, economic and administrative factors. Physiography also we discussed about the topography of the geographical conditions of the areas. So that's why wherever mountainous and desertous areas, you have less railway networks there. So railways are divided into 16 zones. The northern plains, with their vast level land, high population density and rich agricultural resources, provided the most favorable conditions for their growth. So wherever plains are there, there you have a better railway network. However, large number of rivers requiring construction of bridges across their wide beds pose some obstacles. So because of the rivers, large long rivers, because construction cost will increase and many bridges have to be constructed. So this pose some obstacles, problems for building the railway network. In the hilly terrains of the peninsular region, railway tracks are laid through low hill gaps or tunnels. So generally when you travel, like for example Konkan Railway in the western coastal areas, you see some of the hills or mountains, they constructed tunnels, and some of them the gap between two hills, there they have put the tracks. So like that they are trying to develop. The Himalayan mountain regions too are unfavorable for the construction of railways lines due to high relief, sparse population and lack of economic opportunities. So it is very difficult. One is weather conditions and risk of landslides, and then a lot of cost effectiveness and less population. So all these and very less economic opportunities. So railways are not much developed in the Himalayan areas. Likewise, it was difficult to lay lines on the sandy plain of western Rajasthan, swamps of Gujarat, forested tracts of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa and Jharkhand. Because in these areas, railway lines, it was very difficult to lay because of the sandy plain. And then many of the swamps in Gujarat and these central part of our country, it is not geographically suitable for the railways. The contiguous stretch of Sahyadri could be crossed only through gaps or passes of ghats. That is, we call it as ghat. So continuous stretch of hills. So everywhere the railways had to see the gap and then lay the tracks. So that's why when you cross some ghat area, you find there are a lot of turnings of the railway track. In recent times, development of the Konkan Railway. Just now we were discussing about the Konkan Railways. Along with the West Coast, has facilitated the movement of passengers and goods in this most economic region of India. It has also faced a number of problems such as sinking of track in some stretches and landslides, what we had told. Landslide means due to the weather condition, the mountains start withering all the rocks or mud or whatever when it washes away during the rains. So at that time what happens? Suddenly they fall on the tracks. So that's why traffic will be stopped. Today the railways have become more important in our national economy than all other means of transport put together. However, railway transport suffers from certain problem as well. Many passengers travel without ticket. See, what is the problem railways are facing? Many people travel ticketless, without paying money or without buying ticket. They try to travel. Thefts, they try to steal the things, and damaging of railway property has not yet stopped completely, like tearing of the seats, picking away some of the fittings in the bathrooms and other places, and taking away all the railway goods from the stations or the yards or the sheds. stealing of those things. So this is a loss for the railways. People stop the train whenever they are traveling. If they want to get down in a particular place where the train doesn't have any official stoppage, but they pull the train unnecessarily, this causes heavy damage to the railways. Now, the new thing what you need to learn is about the pipelines. What is pipeline? Pipeline transport network is a new arrival on the transportation map of India. In the past, these were used to transport water to cities and industries. Always when I say pipeline, you might think only about the water only through pipelines. Now, these are used for transporting crude oil, petroleum products, and natural gas from oil and natural gas fields to refineries, fertilizer factories, and big thermal power plants. So many things are being transported. Solid can also be transported through a pipeline where converted into slurry. How these are solid things, they add water and then make it a slurry, semi-solid, semi-liquid, and then they are made to pump it in the through pipeline. During minerals, we studied about Kudremukh iron ore plant in Karnataka. So from there they are sending the iron ore through pipeline by making it into a slurry, semi-liquid form, and then they are sending through pipeline to the port of Marmagoa, from where it is completely exported. The iron ore is exported to other countries. The far inland locations of refineries like Barauni, Mathura, Panipat, and gas-based fertilizer plants can be thought of only because of pipelines. They are now working in a good situations. That is, they are a very big industries, fertilizer plants and oil and gas plants, which are working only because of these pipelines. Initial cost of laying pipelines is very high, but subsequent running costs are very much minimum, because everything cannot be transported through railways or trucks. So if a truck has to carry, it has to take through a tanker, and the quantity is very less, because the production can't be stopped till they get the trucks or the tankers or the railways to get them. It will be difficult to transfer the gas or oil, crude oil and other things. So once the pipeline is laid, it is a permanent and continuous process for production. There are three important networks of pipeline transportation in our country. See, the first one, from oil field in Upper Assam to Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh, it passes through via Guwahati, Barauni and Allahabad. It has branches from Barauni to Haldia via Rajband, and Rajband to Maurigram, and Guwahati to Siliguri. So these are so many cities it is going to, different types of industries. And then next one is from Salaya in Gujarat to Jalandhar in Punjab via Vikramgarh, Mathura, Delhi and Sonipat. It also has branches to connect Koyali near Vadodara, Gujarat, Chakshu and other places. So even it is giving connectivity to other cities also. Gas pipeline from Hazira in Gujarat connects Jagdishpur in Uttar Pradesh via Vijaypur in Madhya Pradesh. It has branches to Kota in Rajasthan, Shahjahanpur, Babrala and other places in Uttar Pradesh. Now Next we have waterways. See, waterways are the cheapest means of transport. They are most suitable for carrying heavy and bulky goods. It is a fuel efficient and environment friendly mode of transport. So it depends on the environment and climatic conditions, and it is very cheapest mode of transport. India has inland navigation. What do you mean by inland? That is internally inside the country. That is where transportation used in the rivers. So that is called inland navigation. Waterways of 14,500 kilometers in length. Out of these, only 3,700 kilometers are navigable by mechanized boats. The following waterways have been declared as the national waterways by the government. How we have national highways on the roads? The same way we have national waterways also. The first one is Ganga River between Allahabad and Haldia in West Bengal. That is 1,620 kilometers. It is called as NW number 1. Then next one is the Brahmaputra River between Sadia and Dhubri. That is in Assam and Arunachal Pradesh areas. 891 kilometers. That is NW number 2. The West Coast Canal in Kerala, Kottapurma to Koman, Udyogamandal and Champakara canals, which has 205 kilometers. It is called as NW number 3. The other viable inland waterways include the Godavari, Krishna, Barak, Sundarbans, Buckingham Canal, Brahmani, East-West Canal and Damodar Valley Corporation canals. These are all on the rivers, various rivers where transportation is done in these things. So now we have a long coastal line, you all know. So we have many major seaports also. So with a long coastline of 7,516.6 kilometers, India is dotted with 12 major and 181 medium and minor ports. So many ports we have. These major ports handle 95% of India's foreign trade. With these ports only we are handling all our 95% of our foreign trade is taken care by the ports. Kandla in Kutch was the first port developed soon after independence to ease the volume of trade on the Mumbai port in loss of Karachi port to Pakistan after the partition. Previously, Karachi was a major port in India before independence. After we got independence and India was partitioned with Pakistan, so Karachi went to Pakistan side. So only Mumbai was the port at that time. So instead of Mumbai, to ease the pressure, they developed Kandla in Gujarat. And we have ports. Now I can say, like in our India map, when you start from west to east, topmost we have Kandla port in Gujarat. We have smaller ports like Porbandar and many Surat, few more ports, smaller ports in Gujarat, but major ports I will tell: Kandla, Gujarat, then Mumbai port, then Jawaharlal Nehru port near Mumbai, newly constructed. Then after that we have Marmagoa port in Goa. Then a newly developing port, Karwar in Karnataka. Then Mangalore port in Karnataka. Then we have the Cochin port in Kerala. Then we have Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. After Tuticorin, we have again in the eastern side Chennai port. Then above Chennai, we have smaller ports like Kakinada. Machilipatnam is going to be developed again because it was a very old port, but later it was stopped. Now they are going to develop it. Then after Kakinada, we have Vishakhapatnam. It is very strategic port for us in trade as well as defense levels. Then we have Paradip port in Orissa. Then we have Hooghly, that is Kolkata. Then Haldia port we have there. So many ports we have, and it has to many more are into development. Now we shall go about Kandla is a tidal port. It caters to the convenient handling of the exports and imports of highly productive granary and industrial belt stretching across the states of Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Gujarat. It is handling almost the northwestern states. Right, Mumbai is the biggest port with spacious, natural and well-sheltered harbour. The Jawaharlal Nehru port was planned with a view to decongest the Mumbai port and serve as a hub port for this region. Then Marmagao port of Goa is the premier iron ore exporting port of the country. This port accounts for about 50% of India's iron ore export. New Mangalore port, located in Karnataka, caters to export of iron ore concentrates from Kudremukh mines. We discussed. Kochi is the extreme southwestern port located at the entrance of a lagoon with a natural harbour. On the east coast is the port of Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. This port has a natural harbour and rich hinterlands. Thus, it has a flourishing trade handling of large variety of cargoes to even our neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, Maldives, etc. and the coastal regions of India. Chennai is one of the oldest artificial ports of the country. It is ranked next to the Mumbai in terms of volume of trade and cargo. Vishakhapatnam is the deepest landlocked and well protected port. This port was originally conceived as an outlet for iron ore and exports. Paradip port, located in Orissa, specializes in export of iron ore. Kolkata is an inland riverine port. This port serves a very large and rich hinterland of Ganga-Brahmaputra basin. Being a tidal port, it requires constant dredging of Hooghly River. Haldia port was developed as a subsidiary port in order to relieve growing pressure on Kolkata port. Now we shall go with airways. The air transport was nationalized in the year 1953. On the operational sides, Indian Airlines, Alliance Air, subsidiary of Indian Airlines, private scheduled airlines and non-scheduled operators provide domestic air service. I told you domestic means inside the country itself. Air India provides international air services. Pawan Hans Helicopters Limited provides helicopter service to Oil and Natural Gas Commission, that is ONGC, in its offshore operations. Offshore means when they are digging or extracting crude oil in the beds of the sea. So their transportation is needed. So for that, Pawan Hans helicopters are used to inaccessible areas and difficult terrains, like even in northeastern states and in the interior parts of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttaranchal, hilly and mountainous areas. Indian Airlines operates also extend to the neighboring countries of South and Southeastern Asia and Middle East, nearby countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand and Middle East, Gulf countries. They are operating Indian Airlines, as well as nowadays private airlines also. So what are the private airlines? SpiceJet, Go Air. Previously there was Kingfisher Airlines, like that. There are many more airlines nowadays. Go Air. All these are private airlines. Now coming to communication. Personal communication and mass communication include television, radio, press, films, etc. are the major means of communication in the country. So these are the major communications we use for communication, for learning, knowing the things and updating ourselves. Everything we are getting through these communication. And then postal department, posts. Indian Post, we call it as India Post. The Indian postal network is the largest in the world. It handles parcels as well as personal written communication like letters. Cards and envelopes are considered as first class mail and are airlifted between stations covering both land and air. The second class mail includes books, packets, registered newspapers, periodicals. They are carried by surface mail like roadways and railways, covering land and water transport. To facilitate quick delivery of mails in large towns and cities, 6 mail channels have been introduced recently. That is, we call it as Rajdhani Mail. That is like metro cities and all. They are called as Rajdhani channel, metro channel, green channel, business channel, bulk mail channel and periodic channel for more speeding up. Telephone. India is one of the largest telephone networks in Asia. In order to strengthen the flow of information from grassroots to higher level, the government had made special provision to extend 24 hours STD facility to every village in the country. STD means previously, few years back, it was the only way to connect from one city to another or one town or inter villages. They used to have a code from where they have to dial the code and book a call. Before STD also trunk calls were there. So we had to wait for hours together to get the connected. From the telephone exchange, they used to first connect the call and then inform you to get communicated or to get connected. So STD means subscribers trunk dialing. This is a uniform rate of STD facilities all over India. It has been made possible by integrating the development of space technology with communication technology, because satellites work for our telecommunications. Now, of course, we have mobile phones, so the landlines are very rarely used nowadays. Mobile telephone and films. India is one of the fast growing mobile network in the world. Mobile phones have changed the way Indians conducted business. Now everything is on your mobile phone only. Now even low income group people like vegetable vendors, plumbers and carpenters get better business because they are connected through mobile phones. India is the largest producer of feature films in the world. We have a very big film industry. It produces short films, video feature films and video short film. The Central Board of Film Certification is the authority to certify both Indian and foreign films. And through this also we are getting lot of foreign exchange, because these films are released outside India also. Mass communication provides entertainment and creates awareness among the people and various national programs and policies. It includes radio, television, newspapers, magazines, books and films. All India Radio, we call it as Akashvani, broadcasts a variety of programs in national, regional and local languages for various categories of people spread over different parts of the country. Doordarshan is the national television channel of India, is one of the largest terrestrial networks in the world. It broadcasts a variety of programs from entertainment, educational to sports, etc. for people of India and the world. So now, of course, we have various companies and various media where we are watching many of the channels. India publishes a large number of newspapers and periodicals annually. There are different types depending upon their periodicity. Newspapers are published in about 100 languages and dialects. Later, largest number of newspapers published in country are in Hindi, followed by English and Urdu. Then almost all the regional languages. Now, finally, we come for the international trade. Trade between two countries is called international trade. When two countries are doing any business, that is called international trade. It may take place through sea, air or land routes. Advancement of international trade of a country is an index to its economic prosperity. That's why, therefore, it is considered as economic barometer of a country. In board, there will be a question. What is the economic barometer? Explain. So we should say trade between international trade, and we need to write all this. So how economy is increasing? If you are doing trade outside our country, if we sell goods, our goods outside, we get the foreign exchange, and that improves our economy very, very rapidly. Export, when goods are sent to other country for sale, it is called export. Import, when the goods come from other country to be sold in India, is called import. If we are buying any foreign goods, that is called imported. So when you are selling our goods outside the country, we are exporting it. So there should be a balance. Always imports should be less, exports should be more, for a very well for better economy of the country, because we should get more foreign exchange than losing our money to foreign countries by buying their goods. So that's why we call it as balance of payment. This is difference between export and import of a country. When export is higher than import, then this is a situation of favorable balance of payment. On the other hand, when import is higher than export, the situation is unfavorable. It is not good. That's why we say export should be more than the imports. See, you have a data here. The same thing is in your textbook about the growth in share in export. Bulk imports as a group registered accounting, see, edible oil, cereals, everything you have in your textbook. International trade has undergone a sea change in the last 15 years. 15 years we have developed very much in the international trade. Exchange of commodities and goods have been superseded by the exchange of information and knowledge. So we are exchanging of commodities and goods. India has emerged as a software giant at the international level, and it is earning large foreign exchange through the export of information and technology. We all know almost we are the best in the world for software. So we are earning a lot through software. Lastly, we shall learn about tourism as a trade. Because India has such a beautiful geographical conditions, situations, physical features, because we discussed in 9th class what we discussed. We have plains, we have coastal plains, we have plateaus, mountains, deserts, cold areas where we have snowfall, hill stations. All these things are existing in our country. So we have a lot of tourism. Tourism is a very, very big industry in our country. So foreign tourists arrival in the country witnessed increase of 23.5% during the year 2004 as against the year 2003, thus contributing rupees 21,828 crores of foreign exchange. Over 2.6 million foreign tourists visit India every year. More than 15 million people are directly engaged in tourism industry. It's nothing but like job opportunities or occupational opportunities, because people so many are linked up with the tourism industry. Tourism also promotes national integration, provides support to local handicrafts, because if tourists visit, they buy lot of goods like handicrafts, cultural pursuits. It also helps in development of international understanding about our culture and heritage, and even medical issues also. Many foreign tourists come for medical treatments, education, business trips. All these things come under tourism. So with this we have completed this chapter, and I request all of you, please go through the textbook, underline all the key points, and then try to prepare your running notes, write down in your notebooks, and then learn well. And this is all very important topic. Thank you very much. Thank you.